Yeah, we wanted to ask you to tell us a little more about that struggle. What were the stated reasons for your firing? What were the actual reasons for your firing? But
Yes,
also
that's right.
how the community rallied around you.
Yes,
Who stood by you? If you could tell us a little.
For the stated and actual, the real people that fired me, and the person, the dean who sent the letter.
Right.
And you see, the former chair of the department, for reasons still unknown to me, suddenly decided that he's leaving. Now, when he asked me to come to Temple, he asked me, and I'd already had tenure. He said, as soon as a tenure slot opens, you will get it. I said, okay, I'll come, you know. But then he lies. And if he ever comes to Philadelphia and tries to say he didn't say this, or which he said to some people, oh, I didn't tell them. Yes, you did. You know what I'm saying? Another backstabbing, you know. But I'm used to it by now, I guess. But so he decides to leave, and so we have to decide, what do we do? Because the dean wants to appoint a white scholar who is an accomplished scholar, but not in African American studies, to lead African American studies, which is saying, well, you can't get any black people? So then we mount a struggle to save African American studies. I'm in the leadership of it. Not alone, but in the leadership of it. And so we agree that Molefe Asante will be the chair. Molefe says to me, no, Tony, you should be the chair. He said that to me. I said, no, the dean would never accept me, and I don't want to be the chair, you know, which is being an administrator. But we won the fight to make him the chair. He was barely in the chair. Then the first thing he does is to remove me. And so then, it was me and Max Stanford, but it was really me. Because Max was not much of a presence. They're making a film, some young people out there. Oh, God. They're doing something crazy, but it's not bad. He asked, so we got Molefe in, boom. So I get this letter, I think in December of 2013, 2014, I think, from the dean. So then I say, oh, you know, I found out about it. I was at a demonstration for Mumia. And I forget, I got a text or somebody called me and said, Tony, you need to go and check your mailbox up at Temple. And I went up there in this letter from the dean. But it had been engineered by Molefe and this woman called Ama Mazama, a very sneaky, kind of person who, by the way, is not from here, from Guadalupe. That's why I don't go, and I'll say it openly. See, African Americans fought for these things, and we didn't fight for you all to come from an African country or from a Caribbean country and then tell black people how we're going to handle our business. I don't appreciate it. And I always say, if you're so smart, go back and help your people in your country. But you know, so anyway, and it was brutal the way they tried. Oh. Yeah. But again, I have to say, I consider this to be part of the cost of fighting for something. So we fought, and you know, among the organizations on the campus that supported me were DSA, Among the professors was Joe Schwartz, a Jewish political science professor, member of DSA. Most of the black professors did nothing. But then I went to the public. On WURD, in the Philadelphia Tribune, in the Philadelphia Inquirer, organizing marches and students and all of this type of thing. And, you know, just fighting the best we could. And then linking my struggle for reinstatement to the struggle against gentrification. And there were a couple of women very important, and they're no longer in free school, sadly. Patrice Armstead and what was the heavyset woman's name? Adams. I remember her last name was Adams. Very, very strong working class women. And we fought on principle. We couldn't win my reinstatement. However, the pressure we put on the administration, the year to the day practically, that I got the letter that I would not be reinstated, she is forced to resign. And a few months after that, the provost goes down. And a couple months after that, the president is forced to leave.
Oh, wow.
So was this all a part due to the movement that I was put in? Not completely, although it was the movement that I was about was a player, contributor to the crisis of the administration. Because we went public, we wrote articles in newspapers, had 300 scholars from around the world writing to the president, demanding my reinstatement. There was a very important academic professor from Princeton Theological Seminary, Mark, I forget Mark's last name right now. Very important. Angela Davis signed on, Cornell West, you know what I'm saying? So there was pressure from these national figures and from the grassroots. And marches and rallies, etc. But the university threw its weight behind Molefe. You know, he went to them and told them that I was not a scholar, I was nothing but a communist apparatchik. And he even put this on his Facebook. That's how ignorant he is. But we fought. And for me, that's the main thing, you know? And Yvonne, all of free school got involved. And the graduate students who are the most opportunist peeled away from me. Only two remained with me. Brandon Stanford and Jennifer, I forget Jennifer's last name now. The rest of them faded into the woodworks like little chumps, you know. But we fought.
When you say the coupled it to the struggle against gentrification, you mean the stadium they were trying to build?
The stadium. And we were also trying to fight to hold on to the public housing right, what was called Norris Homes. We couldn't win that one. But they didn't get the stadium. They didn't get it. And that made more necessary the free school. And then coming out of that struggle, I put forward the idea of a conference on the Black radical tradition, which took place in January of 2016. And it brought together all of these high-powered academics and intellectuals. But it also, and this is something I want to tell you all about, you will recognize this, Nuri. this is when I knew that all of this queer shit and feminism was nothing, that it was really a stronghold of deep state action. You know, first of all, there were people who claimed to be students from Penn or other places who became a part of the organizing thing. Because it was open, it was wide open, anybody could join. And they were always on this thing of trans or gay or LGBTQ, presenting opposition to anything we tried to do. Then, you know, there was confusion about how to deal with the queer question and the woman's question. And I remember Mark Taylor, good man, but not clear enough on a lot of things, more liberal. So we were trying to decide who would be the keynote speaker.
So the black radical tradition.
It was the black, and he proposed Divya. And I said, no, man. I said, if anybody should be Cornell and me. And that's the way it turned out. But it was this kind of bending to the queer identity politics moment. But we pulled it off. And we had a panel on queer resistance, but we had enough black people in there, so it wasn't just this, you know, these queer academics, and they are broken people, you know. But anyway, in this panel, I'll just tell the story. In this panel on queer resistance, Tyrone Smith was in it on the panel, and Pam, Reverend Pam, what's Pam? I forget, Pam, I think Smith too. Now Pam is an open lesbian and a preacher, you know what I'm saying? And married, oh, she wasn't married then, but you know. And so she was in her presentation, she said, back in the days, people would call us she, he's, or something like that. She was describing the situation. Suddenly, all of these little so-called queers and lesbians jumped up. You've insulted us. I mean, in other words, they used anything to provoke this. And then even had signs and posters already made up and were demonstrating outside of the hall where the conference was. And then the Temple police came and were getting ready to shut everything down, or threatened to shut everything down. But I learned a big lesson about the queer movement. I think it is a hotbed of agent provocateurs and deep state activists. It is not a genuine movement. It is not a movement of the people. It's at best an elitist movement of elites, you know. But I saw it there at the Black Radical Tradition Conference.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, yeah, I think that's something to draw on also, because, like, from what you're describing, since Temple, free school is obviously a political base, you know, this is...
Oh, yeah.
And it is a real commitment to the ideological struggle and also the political education of and for the people.
Yes.
And what you said about it initially, like in its initial stages, being rooted in an institution like the Church of the Advocate, with Father Paul Washington's legacy. I mean, it suggests that from the very beginning, a central tenet of free school was also that you had to be close to the people.
Yes.
That there is, you learn from the people, and you always try and be close to the people. And I feel like it has also been in free school, there's always that striving, but then it's not like all people's institutions, especially the ones that have been attacked or have made, we do not seek unprincipled unity with all institutions just because maybe the appearance is that they work for the people. It's always to seek that principled unity. And in that way, the free school also has a critique of the left and what it has come to. And we already touched upon some of that when we were describing what happened to the Communist Party. But to look at the left broadly today, how it has come to what it is, and free school's critique of it as having basically lost the people or not being able to really move where the people have moved. I wanted to ask you to basically talk about that a little, like how did that evolve? Because you were also bringing up like the early formation of the Black Lives Matter movement or something, maybe even feeling positive that there is energy, there are things that people would want to, so something like that. Like basically what was that evolution?
Yeah, because also you had asked the question, is Marxism-Leninism actually necessary now as a fundamental
Or how
assumption?
useful is it now?
Yes, without something like the Soviet Union or the World Communist Movement. And so today, what do you think progressive political organizations or movements actually need to take as their assumptions and their approach? Like, is it just different from the left?
Well, see, I think, I got first, poor lady. What was your question again, poor?
So basically the critique that you have and free school operates on critique of the left and basically the processes through which it has become what it is.
Well, the left has, what they call the left, and the really ideological left has completely abandoned theory, period. They don't even, they barely talk about Marxism. If you want to talk about Marxism, go to some philosophy department in somebody's office and a graduate course. There is no public discussion of Marxism at all. I think, the new American Communist Party tries to do something. I think they don't do it. I don't hear anything about them doing it. The Communist Party USA definitely does not engage ideas and Marxism. You'll hear it discussed, for instance, Richard Wolff on different podcasts. PSL, I don't know that they have public discussions of ideas and Marxism or any of that. If you went back to the 1960s and 70s, there would regularly be forums and other things where ideas, and especially Marxism and Leninism, and even Mao and all of that would be discussed. You don't see it anywhere. But what do you see discussed? Du Bois. And that is primarily the most active ideological, force, movement in the country is the free school. And our advancing of Du Bois. Now, one of the things I know that we've attempted is to propose a Du Bois-Lenin synthesis. Nobody picks it up, they're not interested. You got this Saturday fake school, which I don't know where they're going with this silliness. Half a year on Du Bois, and now let's move on. So it is the free school that is the active ideological force in this country. It is. There is nothing comparable to or equal to what we're doing. This rigorous, day by day commitment to knowing and to Du Bois. And we have made bold, I guess people would say audacious claims that Du Bois is a new movement of world thought. You know what I'm saying? And I think we verified in so many different ways in our writings and all of that type of thing. But what is called the left, and I'm not so much the the social democrats, because where's Jacobin magazine these days? It folded. And the people who were, the celebrities, the heads of it, and so they've scattered to the wind. Where are they? You know what I'm saying? The Communist Party, Political Affairs used to be the theoretical journal. I don't even know if it still exists. The American Communist Party, I know Carlos Guerrero, I think that's his name. He was supposed to be the philosopher, but I have not seen a word from them. Have any of you?
I haven't checked recently.
Yeah, I haven't checked recently either. But, so, what you see, and this is why their claims to be fighting fascism and all of this are so hollow. Because that is a way of, I think, disguising or veiling the fact that they have abandoned the ideological struggle. What do communist parties exist for? I mean, even in the Leninist definition, it is to educate the masses, to ideologically train revolutionaries, and they've given it up. And, this is, and I can tell you this, having gone through these different periods, it began after the collapse of the Soviet Union. So you get, for example, Gerald Horne. A lot of people don't know him like I know him. I know him politically and personally. Politically, he was never very much. He was in the Communist Party, but didn't do much, He is, so when the Soviet, but he had this idea that the impetus for revolutionary change in the United States would come from the Soviet Union, or at least that the Soviet Union would block the U.S. going to the more extreme warlike possibilities. Once the Soviet Union collapses, he throws his hands up and becomes literally, I would say, a neo-Garveyite. And confused, he can write books, but it's the writing of books of a man who is frantic, almost depressed, and just, and he feels himself impotent. So he writes a book. Usually, a book that is wrong, and even a book that gets the scholarship wrong. Very bad, very poor, but he keeps doing it because he can't do anything else. Or, I remember I had a discussion with my friend Frank Chapman. He's in Chicago, the National Alliance Against Racism and Political Repression. And I think, from what I gather from Meghna and Jahan, he has a certain presence in Chicago. I remember I was talking to him, I don't know why we were talking on the phone, not that long ago. And he wanted to impress me with, I'm still a red. So why are you telling me that? What you trying to say? I mean, I guess he was saying that, Tony, you're not a red. But I bring up these names in particular because I think that they very well know the free school, very well. They know the work of the free school, but for the time being, and maybe not just for the time being, they remain silent because what do they say? The free school has reclaimed Du Bois, the great Du Bois, for this moment of crisis. What have you done? I was looking at a free school, Nuri, where we talking about the state. I think you gave the opening on it. Remember that? And you talk about the liberal and Marxist theories of the state, and then the Du Boisian theory. Well, if y'all so hip and so smart, if we're not right, say something. They can't. They can't. They're ideologically, maybe bankrupt, they just don't have the spirit of struggle. So that means that their only option is to unite with the liberals and follow the liberals and hope that the Democratic Party wins. And I guess they have, they're following the DSA, like with Mamdani in New York, or the mayor of Chicago, that type of thing. But they have nothing of their own. They cannot think. And this is a time of thought. And this, you know something, this is what I knew all the time.
Right.
After the class, no, we have to think. Let's, and frankly, I can only say, the way you all see me now, that's the way she saw me 10 years ago when I met her. And even before, I was always of the, we can do this. I'll shut my mouth.
Do you want to re-ask your question?
Well, I wasn't gonna re-ask that one. I was gonna ask something else.
Oh,
Do you wanna
I was
ask?
going to move to 13 years now.
Oh wait, let me ask one
Okay.
more thing. So I feel like I want to underline when you said this is a time of thought, and
Say that again.
when you said this is a time of thought,
Oh,
this
yes.
is a time for thought, where there's a giant crisis that's happening, but the biggest crisis of all is if the people can't think, if the people don't have ideas or a vision to actually lead.
Right.
And I feel like some of that is even the question of what is the future? What should political struggle look like? What should an organization or a mass movement look like? What would the democratic demands be? And I feel like there's so much that now, like once the Soviet Union has fallen and the world communist movement has collapsed, you can't take any of it for granted anymore. And it seems like when you were going back to Du Bois, you're assessing what is real, what is actually there for the American people. And I feel like in this conversation, we've been talking a lot about the different elements that are needed for a revolution to take place. Like leadership, ideological clarity, the mass movement, the uniting of the
There's
people.
no two ways about it.
And so I think we've seen like basically spurts and pieces where it's not that the people are defeated, it's not that the people are just lying down and taking everything, but there are moments. And so I wanted to ask and sort of go back to like the movements that you had mentioned, like the early Black Lives Matter movement with the murder of Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown and Ferguson, Occupy Wall Street, even the very small anti-war protests against the Gulf War and the Afghanistan War, and to protest
By the
today.
way, they weren't so small against the war in Iraq.
They're bigger.
Yeah.
They've been growing over the last decades. And today, the pro-Palestine movement, the student encampments, on the one hand, and then things like No Kings on the other. Like, from that sort of history of the movements and the moments of the last few decades, what do you think are the democratic demands that are emerging from the people that are formulated against a ruling class? And how do you sort of distinguish that between, like, the demands or the movements that are seeded from the ruling class down below?
Well, I think like in free school, one of the things that we have been doing is to understand the capacity of the people. And for us, especially of Black people, who we see as the central force, you know what I'm saying? I think we're right about that. But we've been trying to study, and Philadelphia is a great place. I was talking to a woman last night in St. Louis, and it's nothing comparable to Philadelphia. All that we have here, and so can the people and black people were talking about, do again what we did in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even early. Can we do that? And it's a matter of, are the people capable? And so we're still studying it, you know, but one thing is for certain, movements and marches will be, you know, you can always have that. I mean, not always, you know, the student encampments were a special thing and a very consequential thing. But what the student encampments lack, and we could see it at the University of Pennsylvania, when they were overwhelmed with all these Trotskyites and so on, and the students, I think, I could be wrong about this, y'all might know better than me. The students, you know, kind of said, okay, let's go back to class, you know, because the logical thing would be for them, or some of them, to come towards the free school. We haven't gotten that yet. We haven't won them yet. But I would say the work at Lucian Blackwell Library, I think this birthday celebration is going to show some things. For example, suppose the choir of Mother Bethel, the brass band from the United House of Prayer, and Alfie and Seraph, suppose all of this comes together. That is saying we have another level of political relationship with the people. We decided not to flirt around with these leftists, these white leftists, but where did we go? The Nation of Islam, the United House of Prayer for All People, Mother Bethel, Zion Baptist Church, the Lucian Blackwell Library. These are all places of political education and ideological development. And I think I think Philadelphia is a different place now, and you tell me what you think, Sarah, than it was when you first came to free school. Well, free school is different, but Philadelphia is an ideologically different place now than it was 10 years ago, than it was when we first did the year of Du Bois. It is different, and it is different because of the free school. And yeah.
Did you want to? No, you did. Oh, okay. Well, because this was sort of the lead into what we wanted to ask next is basically, okay, free school is over 13 years old now. And in this time, like you were describing, that it has changed in the ways it has ideologically consolidated, but then that has happened in the background of a deepening crisis of the state.
Yes, yes. You asked about, you asked about what would the free schools program be? You know, I think those are two interrelated questions. The capacity of the people and what are the people demanding? And we can look at all different, we look at polls, we look at our direct relationships with people. I think this is why the deindustrialization and the rebuilding of the nation and the investment in the people and the breakdown of the military-industrial complex. And I think the work that we do around that is, first of all, showing that the federal debt, the sovereign debt, is the cost of empire, and that the shutdown is really about the cost of empire. And the question of how large or small the federal bureaucracy should be is a question of, can the nation afford it? And I think the federal debt, the sovereign debt, is already out of control, which will only have negative consequences upon the society and further impoverish an already poor population by inflation and higher taxes. And if you see this threat to empire and the cost of empire, it helps to understand Trump better. And I think, just like we talked about last week in free school, that this government shutdown can only be understood in relationship to the federal debt, which is the cost of empire, which when added to deindustrialization, brings the country very, and if there's a recession that breaks out or anything like that, listen, we're so close to an uprising of the people that it's not funny. And that's going to be that'll be dangerous, because every opportunist and agent provocateur will attempt to seize the stage of history. Just like we see with the fake school.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, everything you described, another thing that, obviously...
Oh, by the way, just one other thing.
Yeah.
Forgive me for interrupting. The civilization question, which is not a leftist question. I don't think it ever has been,
Yes.
But that question of civilization, it is not just an economic crisis or social crisis. It is a civilization question, which raises the question of black folk and their civilization. And, I don't know if Jeremiah or Shambarta spoke to you all. We went up to that Father Divine thing. They were putting forward and still put forward ideas in their own casting of them that are saying man is divine, the future of man is literally in a new man, a communist man, a collective man. All of that is there. Then, you go to the Nation of Islam, the same thing. By the way, I would just say an uprising and, sporadic uprising, we have to stay close to the institutions of black life. Zion Baptist Church, those people don't, and Jerry, he might join the United House of Prayer for All. He's close to it, man. And Emily too. They're becoming very religious these days. But I think it's a different kind of, it's a religion of freedom. And when they see black folk, it just really, I understand it. I think the emotion that they show, especially Emily and crying, so because you had been told one thing, and then you see these people, you say, shit, this is what we're told, this is what hip hop presents to us, and it's an amazing, the resilience, and I'm telling you, yesterday was so wonderful also. The ideas that they stand upon are not all that different from us. Man is divine. Man must, it's just so, I would say, in the throes of something that could get very chaotic, we must stay close to the people. Zion Baptist Church, Mother Bethel. When I say stay close, our friendships, our connections, mutual respect, which we have, and I give you all a lot of credit for that. I really do. But we have discovered the real source of revolutionary potentiality. We discovered it. And once we got that black gods in the metropolis and understood what the gods symbolize, we don't work out. I think we've worked out a strategy, the beginning of a strategy of revolutionary struggle. Everybody ain't going to accept it because everybody's not for the people, But but I think we're close to it, man. We are so close. And the thing of black art, black culture, and the remaking of the American people. You know?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I think.
No, you anticipated our question
Oh.
because this question of civilization is definitely
Yes.
like, why is it a category? I think I want to also come back to, but I wanted to ask a few questions specific to the people, how they should respond and understand the crisis of the state, and also everything that you discussed, basically the cost of empire becoming so
Yeah.
high that it can't even sustain. This is what we were talking about in free school this week.
Yes.
Like
yes.
the already inadequate paltry social contract that it even had been able to give to the people this time. And I think it raises a lot of questions, where one question that we have discussed is also the question of governance. And you said it just a little while back that we identified the black proletariat
Yep.
as the vanguard.
Yep.
But then the black proletariat, his social system, his institutions,
Yes.
his culture has been attacked. And
Yes.
I guess the big question is, I mean, this is obviously a very open-ended question, and I think you were already speaking to it, is how do you reactivate that? How do you reactivate and put basically black people back at the front?
I think they're always there. See, I think, once we went to the Black Gods of the Metropolis, and we saw like Daddy Grace, Father Divine, as well as Zion Baptist, it's a different thing. Zion Baptist is founded in 1888. Daddy Grace and Father Divine's Peace in the 1930s. It's literally, it is the proletariat from the South that builds these. But these organizations, from what we see, that United House of Prayer, it is more dynamic, more spirited, more confident, and of course the Nation of Islam. But all of this, so black people have not gone anywhere. They are here. You can't dismantle them. This is what we see. If that, now, I hear what you're saying completely.
Because you could see these institutions, and I think I'm also going back to what we had said, this Communist Party could be with black leadership. You could see models of governance and models of democratic, the democratic will of the people coming out through a study of these institutions and so on. I think I'm specifically asking this question of who can govern, because that's one of the situations that feels so existential and critical.
I hear you. You know what I'm thinking? And we should think about this. I think there's going to be a period, pardon me, see, with the breakup of MAGA and the collapse of Trump and so on, there's going to be a period of chaos, random demonstrations, even violence and so on. Black people will wait. Just like with the No Kings marches, you could count on one hand the black people who were there. There was no outpouring from churches. Take Philly. No outpourings from churches and mosques and Masonic organizations. They will wait. They will see what white people are capable of doing. And there's always that. I don't think there'll be anytime soon another 1 Million Man March, but I don't know that we need another 1 Million Man March. I think from the standpoint of black people, the political education of youth and children, and children. We cannot leave children out. I think the first day of my birthday, there are going to be a lot of children there, my grandchildren, but nonetheless, they're still children. So I think this work must continue side by side with our building these relationships. And I think, and this is with all people, but certainly with Black people, once they trust you, you know what I'm saying? Things that we will put forward like a peace economy. You go to Father Divine. Oh yeah, we've been preaching that since 1930. Yes, and they have been, or any place. Or you go up to Zion, Reverend James. Yeah, he's a little dogmatic sometimes, but he would go along with it with the quickness. And but I think that's what Black people will hold back for a while. They're not going to jump in because they don't trust white people. They really do. In fact, on WURD radio, I am told one of the hosts was being very outspoken about. I'm not going to that march. See, on WRD they say that Trump won because white people did not unite with Black people to defeat Trump. Well, that's, but the point is that even in the distorted discussion on URD, you see that element of distrust of white people, but it's more general. So they will wait, but it's good that they wait. But the other thing is, Black people always fear that they will take the harshest blows, and so on. So they want to wait, they want to be certain. You'll see, as we go around, you'll hear it. They want to be certain about the nature of the alliance before they get.
And I feel like that's a worthwhile question too, where what you're describing is basically that so far from the sociological study and going to these Black institutions, there is still a capacity of resistance that is intact, that is alive and struggling. And you're also basically describing like Du Bois's concept of the veil, where Black people are able to see the wider society and are watching, but white people can't really see in.
No, they don't.
Where white people don't just magically find the United House of Prayer. But I think it's, for us, the question is also, where will white people go and young white people go? And if they're searching for a movement and if they're searching for leadership, I guess it's a question of, will they be able to find Black leadership and recognize it? And we wanted to ask a little bit about this because young people have been searching basically for a sense of the future and asking very moral and existential questions. Like, what is the point of the United States if it is just going to ally itself with Israel, if it's complicit in genocide, if it can't furnish, any sense of a social contract for the future? And I guess, where do you see the possibilities for, unity, like principled unity, for a broad movement where, like you're saying, Black people have always been the leaders and at the front, and yet they take the harshest blows. And they paid a heavy price because a lot of white people have not actually gone along for the full ride.
That's right.
And so, what do you think that means?
It's hard to say, Nuri. I think we have to continue doing what we're doing. And, Emily had a great insight that she shared with me yesterday, that she said, I think some people in free school have certain criticisms of certain people, let us say it's Zion, which I don't quite understand. But what Emily said is, these are people who have maintained an institution in spite of everything. And they really have. Zion could have collapsed years ago. And, these men who seem a little broken, a little out weird at times, and that you can easily get angry at, frankly, especially since we had a reading group there. I mean, but a little but at the end of the day, you have to say, y'all have held something together. You all have held this thing together. And if they can hold these institutions together, what else are they capable of?
Right. Yeah.
You know, but I think in terms of white people, we have to somehow find the best of them, like the Blazers of the world, you know, find out if they're more like him. And there will be a few at first, you know, that's the way I see it. Those brave students who will say, well, look, the free school. Now, I really don't understand how so many students choose the fake school over the free school. You have any idea what's going on with that?
Advertisement?
Yeah, I think advertisement.
I think, or maybe assistance of
The
groups, or something official.
I think there is like a nexus of different activist groups.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
They'll go to PSL, or see, well, one of the things I think it represents is they don't accept black leadership yet.
number one.
And that's a hard one.
That is a hard one.
That, you know, but if we get, it'll be a few, but if they come forward,
Yeah.
you know, but I think for us it's still
Yeah.
the black
Mhm.
proletariat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and sorry, did you want to say something? No, I just wanted to tag something on to that, which is like even the election of Trump last year, and we obviously talk about this in free school a lot, like the clear disintegration of a system that there's direct evidence of that, where the center does not hold.
Right.
And the people are divided, and there's no path to come to that center because discourse has basically been done away with. And the university and in fact the left also, in aligning with the university and the
Yeah.
forces of the Democratic Party, have contributed to that. But somehow it seems like in electing Trump, the American people, maybe more than before, were also saying that, you know, like basically it's us against the ruling elite.
Yeah.
So maybe there's more of a possibility now, but what you're saying also is that because of the history of this country, because of, I guess it reminds me of Du Bois's idea of the logic of the broken plate.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it always comes down to that question: is will you be able to accept black leadership?
That's big. And you know, if they see something like the United House of Prayer for All People, do you recognize what that represents?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that would be very hard. It's so much about black people that's just so unusual for white people. You know, it really is. I mean, how could you imagine a church with people playing a brass band? You know, it's quite unusual.
And know the Bible without having.
Yeah, or really, or know the Bible the way they need to use it.
Right.
Oh yeah, it's that's always interesting
Yeah.
to see how groups come together.